As I look at what is happening in the United States and across the world, I see two potential futures for the human species. Two different stories fighting for supremacy. In one, we succumb to nationalism and xenophobia, closing our borders and our hearts, turning inward, afraid of the world. We look with increasing wariness and hatred on minorities within our own nations and ramp up tensions between our country and others. We elevate greed and tell a story of scarcity and competition. Every person, every nation for itself. Our world community fractures into enemy nations, our nations into tribes vying for dominance, our communities into splintered and suspicious factions. The ever-dwindling resources on our ravaged planet force us to compete with our neighbours, stretching those tensions even further until, inevitably, they snap. War. And this time with nuclear arsenals on every side. That is the dark future. That is the Sith Lord future. The other is more hopeful. It's the Jedi Knight future. And in this second future, people of goodwill, people of all religions and none, all races, all backgrounds, all sexualities and genders, people with disabilities, poor people, rich people, young and old, human and alien, recognize the danger we are in and decide to fight. To fight not against other people, but against hatred and small-mindedness and fear. Fight for decency and openness and hope. Together we take to the streets, rebuild civic institutions, and mobilize our collective power to tell a different story about humankind. That we are all in this together. That life is not a competition between peoples, a zero-sum game with winners and losers, but a shared enterprise on a shared planet, one species, one life lived together. We can work with one another, each of us bringing out the best in other people rather than the worst. We can have an ethical future, a humanist future. For their second story has always been what humanism is truly about. And I believe it is our duty as humanists to tell that second story and never stop telling it. The story which uplifts the best of the human spirit and reminds us that we are all responsible for each other, that none of us are free until we are all free. In other words, it is our duty to resist. To resist the petty, narrow-minded story of competition and greed and promote the expansive, inviting story of a shared prosperity for all humankind. And I believe our story can win if we resist. In the past few months, we have seen an extraordinary coalition of people from all around the world taking to the streets to oppose the xenophobic and narrow-minded story. We've seen the Women's March, the March for Science, the Equality March in DC, the spontaneous mobilization of people against the travel ban, including here in St. Louis. And there is no indication that this is going to stop or slow down. We're just getting started. If one good thing has come out of the last year, it has been the reminder that there are huge numbers of people, not just in America, but all across the world, who share our ethical vision of a humane and welcoming future for all people. People everywhere are resisting and are beginning to tell that hopeful humanist story. And I do believe that story can win, but only if we make sure that the humanist story is as compelling as possible and heard as widely as possible. And that is where you come in. I and everyone who works at the Ethical Society of St. Louis believe that there are millions of people around the world who would want to be part of our humanist story and our movement, but who haven't found us yet, who don't even know this movement exists. And we need to reach them because we need everyone we can get right now, and because no movement can survive on opposition alone. We need to articulate a positive vision of that people can buy into, including people who, in their despair and dispossession, are now turning to the Donald Trumps of the world. We need to offer something worth fighting for, not just a bad guy to fight against.
Right.
We need to present a grand vision of humanism, a vision which is radical enough to address the major social, cultural, political, and economic problems that we now face, and which leave so many people yearning for a major departure from business as usual. And luckily, we humanists have just such a history of radical visions. In 1933, eminent humanists from across the United States composed a manifesto with an eminently shitty cover, a vision for the future, a story about how life could be. And that manifesto was profoundly radical. In addition to calling for a totally naturalistic view of the universe without gods or cosmic forces, the authors of the manifesto called for all institutions to be redesigned so as to promote the fulfillment of human life, to create a free and universal society in which people voluntarily and intelligently cooperate for the common good. They called for an end to the existing acquisitive and profit-motivated society, and for a socialized and cooperative economic order. It was heady and exciting stuff, especially for 1933. And again, in 1973, an even larger group of humanists who had still not learned graphic design, this time from all over the world, came together to craft a grand vision of a better world. And this one was, if anything, even more radical. The second manifesto commits humanists to ensuring that everyone enjoys a full range of civil liberties in all societies. It calls for profound decentralization of political power, so that political systems are run as close as possible to the people that they affect. It demands democratization of the economy. It asserts a human right to education for all people at all times in their life. It supports a minimum income. In 1973, humanists were calling for a minimum guaranteed income for all people on the planet. It looks to an end to violence as a method to resolve conflict, saying starkly, war is obsolete. It was some serious Star Trek level shit. And we humanists don't talk like this anymore. We seem to have lost the courage of our convictions. Since the Second Humanist Manifesto, there's not been a major effort to recreate a humanist vision of the world for the third millennium. The Third Manifesto, though useful as like a one-page guide to humanist values, has no prescriptions for solving our problems. It's too general, it's too weedy, too anodyne, too excite passion. And it doesn't do what we need to do right now, which is look at the whole of our civilization, guided by our commitment to reason and human dignity, and chart a way forward for our species. That's how big we need to think if our story, the story of this humanist resistance, is going to win. So I am calling right now, right here at Gateway to Reason in the Holiday Inn on Route 66 in St. Louis, Missouri, for a global humanist summit. A convening of humanists from all around the world where, guided by the most marginalized voices, we think about our problems as a global community and come up with some radical suggestions. Yeah.